Welcome to the Epic Success Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shannon Irvin. And today, my dear friend, Mel Abraham, is on the podcast again for a repeat. I think Mel, it was like 2018 was the last time you were on the podcast. So I'm super excited to have you back, especially for the message that we're bringing today. So Mel has released a book. By the time you're listening to the podcast, you can actually get it. So check the show notes. The link will be there. Building Your Money Machine. And Mel and I have known each other, gosh, going on probably 6-7 years, somewhere, maybe even longer. And we've been in each other's lives, and he's an entrepreneur just like us. He bleeds entrepreneur blood. And we were in a mastermind together for quite a few years. And Mel went through something pretty challenging in his life that we walked alongside of him in with a cancer diagnosis. And I remember poignantly, Mel, a moment you and I had out in a hallway where you said to me, thank God I could disappear for 6 months and take care of my health. And that was all about what you've poured into building your money machine, this book. It's not waiting until you end up in a situation where you need to take a break from your business to find out that you absolutely can't. And I just remember walking away and literally feeling like I couldn't hold back the tears, because at the time, you and I have talked a lot, so Mel knows all this, but at the time, I have that high visionary gene, right? So it comes in, it goes right back out on the vision, right? And all the things that I saw Mel doing, I wasn't doing. And it was that moment in the hallway with Mel and one other conversation about an office investment that made me go, it's time to start playing the real game, not the pretend game, but the real game. And so I don't know if that resonates with all of you. Based on what I hear in my coaching programs, I know it does. We're in an economy that is struggling, that's challenging, but you could still build your money machine. Even now, it's not too late. So Mel, I'd love for you to dive in. What made you write this book, get this book out to the world right now?
Gosh, thank you. I still remember the office conversation too.
Yeah. Saved me a lot of money.
Oh my God. So here's the thing. Yeah, the cancer thing. When I started to build this idea of building a money machine, actually came at the hands of a 6-year-old. So it's the hands of my son.
Wow.
Because I was an entrepreneur. I was a typical entrepreneur. I was on the treadmill. I was running. I was doing all kinds of things and trying to build something and thinking I was doing it right, until he came in and said, Daddy, I drew a picture of you at school today. When I knelt down, I see a picture, and it's not of us playing ball, and it's not of us at Disneyland. It's not having fun. It's me in front of a computer, 2 computer screens, and a phone in each ear. And see, at the hands of a 6-year-old, they're brutally honest, and he held a mirror to my soul that got me to look at it and go, oh man, the greatest gift I was given, and that was at the time of being a father, I was screwing it up. And there wasn't an amount of money in the bank account that would fix it, that would take that away. And so I that's what got me to open up my eyes and say, there has to be a way to do money different, to do business different, so you have the ability to honor and the things that actually matter, the things that give you the richness that I call richness in our life, and take care of the things that matter, while at the same time going after your aspirations. And so this is where I started to look at it and say, how do you separate out your ability to earn from the efforts to earn it? Because that's the key. And so that's where that all started to come about. Now, I had no idea. You mentioned the cancer in 2019 when they found the tumor. It was a big tumor. Initially, they thought it was 5 centimeters. It turned out to be 7.5 centimeters. They had told me I might lose the prostate. They might have to put a bag and tube in for the kidney. And then they dropped the bomb on me and said, if it's bad, you lose your bladder.
Huh.
And I go, oh. And then they look at you and say, well, let's face it, it's cancer. So life's on the line. So, you know, in a moment, people say, oh, I bet you got your priorities straight. Oh, yeah. There's one priority. It's life. There's one priority.
Right.
Yeah. There wasn't a list any longer.
Yeah.
You know? And so, like, you and I had that conversation. I said, I knew that I had to fight the cancer physically, mentally, psychologically, medically, all of those things energetically. I didn't have to fight it financially. I didn't have to work during the day to make a living and then fight for my life during the night because it's the only time I had. And I don't know how someone would have to do that. I don't know how you do that effectively because I was at doctors all the time because I hit it from Eastern, Western, holistic. I tried everything. I didn't care what worked. I just cared that something worked, you know? And so the importance of it was highlighted by cancer. It may have been born out of a 6-year-old's drawing, but the importance of it came out of that. And then, you know, that was 2019. And then the pandemic hit, and I watched so many people struggle financially, so many people. And yet I said, God, if they were just given the simple tools, if they were just given the simple strategies, processes, and frameworks to follow, and they inserted the effort, it would have been okay. But we don't talk about money. We don't talk about these things. We think that it's complicated, you know, this and that. It's simple. Now, I'm not saying it's easy because some of us may have a steep hill to climb or a big boulder to push, but difficult doesn't mean impossible.
No.
And so it's important for us to sit back and say, wherever I am, I'm going to take hold of my financial future. And even if it's difficult, it's not impossible. I'm going to take it one step at a time.
Well, and that for our entrepreneurs, for people like us, we're seeking this freedom. Mm-hmm. And we drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, the ultimate freedom, and this is why I walked away kind of choked up. The ultimate freedom is you were able to dedicate your life to kicking this thing to the curb, right? Whether it's spending time with your grandkids, being on whatever the freedom meant at that moment, it got hyper focused for you and it was just life. But I believe, Mel, so many entrepreneurs have drank the Kool-Aid of, I'll just make more, I'll just make more, and then they get on this treadmill and I'll watch it change people's personalities, right?
Yeah.
It'll change who God made them to be. Like, and I even went down that road and more, because we believe, and sorry, Lambros, but we believe the Lambros that say like, you can make, whatever. So our minds are so focused on making money in our business, but making money doesn't create freedom, does it?
No. So you're hitting on one of the key ideals of the book, and one of the biggest mistakes that I think most entrepreneurs make, and me included. I am not exempt. That picture was drawn because I was making the mistake. Yeah. We grew up in an industrial age type of perspective. Yeah. That thinking hasn't left. And so, they teach us to school, growing up, make good money, get a good job, make good money, build a business, but it's all about earning. Yeah. Here's the thing. If you're entrepreneurs, you probably already figured this out. The business you're creating was never meant to give you freedom. It was never meant to give you the control you sought. Yeah. And you got into it thinking, I'm tired of working for someone else. I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to have freedom. I'm going to have control. I'm going to do that. And all of a sudden, you're like, wait a second. And so here's what I realized, because I was doing the same thing. And then they say, oh, get multiple streams of income. Wait a second. I'm already running on one treadmill. You want me to run on 2 treadmills? It's like a disaster.
How do you do that?
Yeah. So I look at it and I go, the idea is, yes, we need to earn, but our business was meant to optimize 2 things. It was to optimize our value and optimize our cash flow. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. it was to provide a solution and have an impact. That's the reason we got into business. Whether it is or isn't, that's the result of business. Now, that's the first journey that you're on. That's what I call the earnings journey. It's the first machine you build called the earnings machine. There's the second machine that they don't tell us about. We don't talk about. They don't educate us about. That's the money machine.
Yeah.
We need to be on parallel journeys, earnings and money at the same time. Because as much as our business isn't meant to give us freedom, it does give us the cash flow to create the freedom we desire. But they never tell us how to use it. That's the crux of it. So I need to build the money machine. When you build the money machine, the focus is on optimizing, one, your assets, okay? Because it is the income from those assets that allows you to separate the effort from the earnings.
Wait, say that again. Say that again. I really want people to hear that. To separate.
It's the income from the assets that will allow you to separate your efforts from your earning.
Just like let that settle into the marrow of your bone.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Because that's what was the gift of the money machine during the cancers. I had assets that were generating cash flow that supported me. It was like having my own ATM.
And I can hear the listeners now because I know them so well. Well, must be nice for you, Mel. You probably came from money. So doing all this is really, really easy. Talk about that. Was it easy for you?
Yeah.
Did you have the trust fund, baby, the silver spoon? So it was always taught to you what to do?
So here's, my dad came here at 17 years old with nothing. So I'm a son of an immigrant. He came here to get an education. He actually wanted to go into med school, never got accepted in med school, became an engineer. He was an engineer in the aerospace industry. So, I mean, we did okay. We didn't live lavishly. You know, he would buy fleet vehicles. And I mean, we lived in the same house. It just got sold 7 years ago. We never moved. We were in this house that they bought for like $30,000 back in 1958. So I didn't come from money. I like to tell people that I'm fortunate enough to have done enough things right to be successful. But but everyone else, the audience and everything, they're fortunate enough that I've done enough things wrong to be educational.
Yeah.
Because along that path, I had to figure it out. Because my dad didn't teach me. He didn't talk about money. He didn't understand money. He was an engineer. He had his pension and he had his 401k and all that stuff. And that was it. He didn't know investments. He didn't understand it. And so I screwed it up along the way plenty of times. I wiped out one third of everything I owned. At one point, me and two friends lost over $4.5 million in an investment that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. And I had to rebuild. So the things that I talk about aren't theory. There aren't, ivory tower stuff. This is the things that actually worked for me. It worked for my son, my clients. It's from the road traveled and not some theoretical ivory tower kind of concept.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people too, especially if they're, my audience is broad. So I have some in 20s, some in 30s. I have a pretty good group in the 40s and 50s and beyond. So, a lot of the things that we've been told, again, not changed since the industrial era, is that if you don't start early and start often, you're screwed pretty much. And so I think a lot of people are like, well, how can I possibly make up time? I'm 45. I haven't even started, or I'm 55 or I'm 35, doesn't matter. But is it possible to create my own money machine, even in the latter part of life or in the, 40s and 50s?
So the short answer is yes.
Yeah.
Let's face it. The fact is that the more time we have, the less money we need to do it.
Right.
Okay. Right. The less time we have, the more money we need.
Right.
But as we get on in life, also our skill set, our knowledge base has grown at a level that the size of the shovel I have later in life is a little different than the size of the shovel I had at the beginning.
Yeah.
So we really look at it from that perspective. And so the other thing that I look at is, well, what's your alternative? I mean, you sit back and say, I would throw my hands up and say, well, I should have started 20 years ago, so I'm just not going to start at all. Because here's what we know, at least in this country, at 62 years old, your Social Security is like $1,800 a month, something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the poverty line in 2023 was like 2,200 or so. I mean, bottom line is they're right in line with each other. So unless I want to live at the poverty line, government assistance isn't an option.
Right.
So what's the other option? You're going to go knock on your kid's door and say, I got to stay on the couch? None of those sound good.
Right.
So even if I'm late in life and say I want to get to a certain level, but I get only 35% there, 50% there, you're still 35 to 50% better off than if you didn't try.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. The other side of it is this. We think that money is the issue, and it's not money that's the issue. It's the behaviors that are the issue. And people say, I got money problems. I said, no, you don't. And they go, how do you know? Have you seen my account? I said, I don't need to see your account. I said, here's what I know. You don't have money problems. You have money symptoms. And I go, what? I said, yeah, there's symptoms of the choices, the decisions, the habits and behaviors of the past.
Yeah.
And I don't say it to be critical. I don't say it to ridicule. I say it to empower. Because if it's around behaviors, who's in control of our behaviors?
Right.
Me. All I got to do is change the behaviors. I get different results, different symptoms, different outcomes.
Yeah.
And so what we really need to do, and this is why we need to talk about it, is how do we instill habits and behaviors and thoughts into people that will give them the life they want, the wealth that they need, that they desire, that they deserve.
Yeah.
And then, because then it's just a math equation.
Yeah.
And it will always solve for itself. So, but what's missing is the proper processes, frameworks, and behaviors. And when we give that to you, then you build on it. It's a study out there, 10,000 millionaires. 79% of them are first generation, meaning that they didn't inherit it, didn't gift it, didn't win it. They created it in their lifetime. Y'all, 8 out of 10 created it in their lifetime. That's pretty good odds for us.
Great odds. I'll take them.
Yeah. 31% of those never made much more than $100,000 a year.
Wow.
So it's
say
not
that
the
again.
amount of money.
Say that again. 80%?
80% were first generation. 31% of that said that they never made much more than $100,000 a year.
Wow. That just blew my mind. What?
So
that's crazy pants.
So yeah, the problem is that then that tells you that it has to do with what they did with the money and not how much money they made, which is really behaviors, habits, and choices.
Wow. All right. So let's deep dive. Let's talk about this money machine. I'm assuming there's some steps involved in building this machine of ours. So what does it include? And I think this is really important because we get the earning machine and we are brainwashed, make more. We're brainwashed in education. This is something I talk about all the time. You were brainwashed to remove your intuition, to make more widgets, which is why you always want to earn more, and to look for others for validation. That's why we got A's, B's, C's, D's, right? So if you're a teacher, I love you to pieces. I get it. It's what we're dealing with. But what is a money machine? Because like that is something that you're right. They're not teaching it. They're not, but yet most of the world's wealth is made on this money machine. So tell me about like, what is the money machine and how can we start to put it into action?
So the subtitle of the book is How Do You Get Your Money to Work Harder for You Than You Did for It? And here's the mistake that most of us make. As entrepreneurs, y'all know what it's like. You've probably hired an employee or two. Imagine for a moment you're going to hire 10 employees and you bring all 10 of them in to the conference room and you're having their first conversation on their first day of work. And you look at them and you say, here's the deal. You probably see that we do things differently around here. I'm not giving any of you job titles. I'm not giving any of you job descriptions, no goals, no roles, no tasks. And all I want to do is I want to double our business in the next year. Let's go have it. Like you would never do that. It's never going to work.
Right.
But that's exactly what we do with our money.
Yeah.
So we let the money come into our life with no purpose, with no plan, with no decision. Every dollar has to have a job description. And here's the power: before the dollar's earned.
Yeah.
When you give that job description to that dollar, it's for the mortgage, it's for rent, it's for clothes, it's for food, it's for whatever it is, in advance, you set things in motion and you stop things from getting in the way, like temptation and emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Because now when temptation and emotion get into our money choices, we make bad money choices.
Ooh, can I get an amen on that one?
and they know it. The reason they gave us credit cards is not to give us credit. The reason they give us credit cards is to remove the friction from the buying decision so we buy more.
Yeah.
We're bombarded every day on TikTok, on Instagram. There's a reason I got a $900 coffee maker that I go, oh, that's nice. And I bought it off of the Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, that's what gets us in trouble. That's the behaviors and habits. Now, I'm not saying not to buy things.
Right.
I am saying to do it consciously aware and intentional, that you understand the consequences of your choices. So you have agency over your money and your life in a way that moves you towards where you want to go. And we're not just on for a ride. So the whole idea behind the money machine in the book is just that. And when you start to build the money machine, we can talk tactically because there is a framework to it. It's called, there's two primary frameworks. It's the 5 incomes and the wealth priority ladder that tells you what to do with your dollars. But I don't want to just focus on the money, because what really defines all of it is your vision for your life.
Yeah.
Has to start there, because let's see, I'll bring it home with this story. I was talking to someone from my publisher who, he was younger, and he said, Mel, I got a question for you. And I said, what's that? He says, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to afford a house.
So many people
I said,
saying that.
why do you say that? He says, well, look at interest rates. And look at housing costs right now. I just don't see that I can do it. And I said, well, let me ask you another question. I said, why do you want to own a house? He said, well, it's the American dream. I said, I get it. The American dream. Here's another question, though. Is it your dream? And he said, I never thought about that. See, and I go, well, here's the thing. I think that you were put here not to live the American dream, but to live your dream. And if the American dream is part of that, then let's have at it. We'll figure out a way. But the tendency is that we start to chase a dream that wasn't ours in the first place to chase.
Right.
And so the key is to define your life the way you want it. Not what your parents, not what your siblings, not what your degree, not what your professional path is, not what society says. And as long as it's moral, legal, and it's not hurting someone, you create your life. And now you sit back and say, great, what's the price tag of that?
Yeah.
And now we build the machine to fund that, because now you're living life intentionally and on purpose. That's the way I look at wealth. That's where I look at and say, we move from wealth to richness. And so I don't like to have the conversation without that, because the vision will decide and determine the plan. The plan will then effectively allow us to define the strategy. The strategy will set in place the tactics, and the tactics will allow us to take actions. And what most people will ask questions about is at the tactic level.
Yeah.
What do I invest in? Where do I go first? Wait a second. The tactic for you is different than for me. We're in different places. You have younger kids. I got young grandkids. Okay. Yeah. You live in a different place. I live in a different place. So the tactics may be good tactics. The question is, are they good for you? So we never respond to a tactic question without understanding the vision, because the tactic has to fit the strategy and the plan, or otherwise it doesn't get us there. And so that's why there's no one size fits all. And what we want to do is equip them with a framework that says, this allows me to make the right choices, the right decisions, and make it happen. And so that's kind of the umbrella of how I want people to look at living a rich life and a wealthy life, because there's plenty of people that have wealth in a bank account. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars. I know one that's a billionaire,
Yeah.
but living a horribly bankrupt life.
Miserable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing I see a lot in the entrepreneurial world. And that's why I was so excited you wrote this book and are addressing this head on, because I think it's really deeply seated in the entrepreneur world. We're climbing a ladder to solve an emotion. And then we get to the top of the ladder and realize it's somebody else's ladder. And we're miserable. Right. Yeah. And I've done that once or twice until I finally said enough's enough. And I need to live my ladder. And so that when you get to the finish line, you can say, yes, this is what I was doing all these steps for. Right. And you're right. Like family with no kids or a family with grandkids, we're all in kind of these different places and what matters most. And some people like watches or just different things. And some people could care less. So why would you set up the same thing? It's like the people, I always equate it to like all the different, like keto. Like everybody's like, oh, keto makes you skinny. So everybody does keto. Well, if you're a person that doesn't have an MTFR, if you have a mutation there, you going keto is actually going to make you gain weight. So, but you're jumping on the bandwagon because everyone said. And so I love that you start from this place, because I think it really gives us power. It gives us the control that we're after, of saying, no, this is the life that I want to create. And now how do I go about creating it? Right.
Without a doubt. And I think it's depending on upbringing and family dynamics and society, it may not be easy. Like when I left the CPA firm and I was on fast track to partnership, first off, the partners looked at me and said, you're screwing up your career. And I go, I might be, but hopefully I'm young enough to fix it if I do, And my poor mother was going, you did what? You quit? Yeah, and what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I'm going to Japan for 4.5 months. And I left, okay, kind of reckless, but I was young. What do you want? But I think that you will get pushback when you start not following the flow of everyone.
Yes.
But the last thing I want you to do is to get to those last days of your life. Bronnie Ware wrote that book, 7 Regrets of Dying. And she said one of the regrets, she's a hospice nurse. She's with people in their last days. And she says one of the biggest regrets that she heard over and over again was the realization that they lived someone else's life. It's not what we're here to do.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And the reason I look at it and go, I believe the financial freedom's a birthright. We got to go claim it. We got to have these conversations. I know some people don't like that I open up the conversations about it. I'm okay with that. I'm not asking you to like me. I'm asking you to live your life fully. That's what I want. And in order to do that, we need to have a life that's built on choice, not demands. We need a life that we get to live and not have to live. And the way we do that is to have the financial things in place so we have the freedom to choose.
Yeah.
And that's what really drives me to do this, because I see so many folks that are willing to settle. I just don't want people to settle. I don't think the life should be lived that way. And so here's what I look at, and we'll get more tactical on this. What is a money machine? What we're really trying to do is separate our efforts from our earnings. And the way we do that isn't something called passive income, because I don't believe in passive income. Okay.
You mean there's no pina coladas?
No. Well, there may be, but you're paying for them. So when I look at it, the important thing is to start to ask yourself, how much work is involved? Because passive is like a set it and forget it kind of perspective. Sure. You can't do that. You can't do that in any relationship.
Yeah.
Stephanie and I, my wife and I, will hit 13 years
Congrats.
on Wednesday. And it's like, we would have never made it 13 minutes if I was passive. So I want us to start to look at income through the eyes of leverage. How much effort does it take? And when we do that, now all of a sudden we can be more direct about it. And so I look at 5 levels of income. The first 2 levels are where most of us entrepreneurs live, which is totally fine. Okay. Right. And we're good with it. The challenge with that is that if we live there, we can't get away from the effort too much. And so the first level is active income. The second level is business income. Active is our solopreneurs. It's the startups. It's the things that require us to be there 100%. Personal brands. I tell people that are I want to build a personal brand. I said, beware. Personal brand can become a personal burden if you're not careful.
Yep.
Okay. And so, which is totally fine. I have a personal brand. You have a personal brand. We have that. Elon Musk has a personal brand. Okay.
Sure does.
So it's okay, but it's not the only thing you do. So that's active income. Business income is now we start to hire people and we start to get some of our time back, but it's still dependent on us.
Yeah.
It's these top 3 that you want to build your money machine out of. The next leverage point up, just slightly more, much more leverage is what we call asset-based income. So buying assets, such hard assets. When I say hard assets, tangible, like I can touch it, I can feel it. It's a piece of equipment, it's real estate or something like that I can rent and generate cash flow. So the effort in is I got to investigate it. I got to look at it. I might have to build it. I have to create it. And then I rent it. And now all I have to do is manage it, maintain it. So the ongoing efforts are low. Just above that is residual income. Okay. Create something once, get paid repeatedly. My books, some of my courses are licensed. Downlines in network marketing or direct sales can be residual income. You think about it in the creative space, songwriters, actors, actresses, they invest a lot of time, energy, maybe money to create something once, but then they get paid for years. I still get paid off my book from 2015.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great book too.
So you do that. Then the last is portfolio income. Okay. Portfolio income is the typical investments that people think about: stocks, bonds, ETFs, index funds, mutual funds, things like that. Right. Paper assets, if you will. When you have the opportunity and you accumulate enough of those assets in those top 3 categories to pay for 80% or more of your lifestyle, you have a money machine. Yeah. When the cancer came in and I had to shut things down, we could pay more than 100% out of the cash flow, not selling them and dismantling the machine. From the cash flow, like going to the ATM and say, I need $100, that we were okay. The machine actually grew during that time. It just didn't grow as fast. And when you have the opportunity to build something like that, then we're not beholden to a paycheck. We're not beholden to the efforts to generate the paycheck. We are now working by choice. And then we can talk about investments and all that stuff tactically, but conceptually, we have to look at what are the ways to leverage my time back, because I believe our wealth should be measured in time and not money. I believe that we should look at it from that perspective.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, every dollar earned, what are you trying to earn it for? And you ultimately get down to it. It's time. I do this exercise with my clients where I'm like, okay, I've got a magic wand. It's my Weston pen, but I've got a magic wand and I've got 7 figures I'm about to grant you in your bank account. Like, you are now a 7-figure business owner. It's in your bank account right now. Do you want that? And 100%, I've never had somebody say no. Like, they're like, yes, I want that. And I said, great. Okay. But there's a caveat. You can never spend time with your family again. You can never go on a vacation again. You can never enjoy the things that you want. In fact, you have 24 hours left to live. Do you still want me to do that? And it's a resounding no. So that just shows you that we aren't trying to get money. We're trying to get time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the ultimate purchase I think we should be buying is our freedom.
Yeah.
And the stuff that we actually are buying is getting in the way.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
just full transparency, I got plenty of stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I live in a nice home on the beach. So it's not like I want to be really clear. I don't believe I'm not one of those people in personal finance that say, nope, you're on mac and cheese and corned beef and hash until you get this thing figured out.
Yeah. 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 Not
Now,
see the inside of a restaurant until.
yeah. I mean, unless you're working there, I think is his
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Now, he's done some great work.
Of
And people
course.
will say, you know, what's the difference between you and him? I said, he helps you get out of a hole. I want to help you build a mountain. And
oh, so good. So good.
so here's what I know. There might be difficult choices. If you're buried in a hole, we'll have to figure it out, and you'll have to make some tough choices. And
Sure.
at that point, there's tough love there. But if you do not enjoy the path to financial freedom, you will not enjoy the destination of financial freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we fall off diets?
Yeah.
They're horrible.
Hey,
You cannot live a rich life through deprivation.
Mm-mm.
And so what I tell people in their plan, if we think about vision plan, when we're going to come up with a plan, in that plan, you have to think about and put in there 1 to maybe 3, maybe 4, what I call joy points of life.
Mm.
The things that are long-term sustainable joys,
Yeah.
the things that really juice your life. Like my wife and I love to travel.
Yeah.
And travel together and share those times, and we do it, and we do a fair amount of it, and we don't do it on, I mean, no knock, but we don't do it on Spirit Airlines. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and the point is that we're creating experiences, we're creating richness through feeling and experiences and doing it. But that's one of our joy points.
Mm-hmm.
So when we build the plan, we build it in. What I have to forsake to fund that is momentary pleasures.
Yeah.
And what gets us into financial trouble is when we are allowing emotions in for momentary pleasures, where we all of a sudden buy something that we shouldn't have bought, but in the moment it seemed like a good idea, it was fun, and 10 minutes later you go, okay, the joy's gone. So let's fund the things that matter, that give us joy long term first, so we can at least know we're doing that. And then if we have the capacity to deal with momentary pleasures like buying a $900 coffee maker, then you do it, but you're not going into debt doing it, and you're not using up your income for a bunch of fleeting experiences that don't give you joy and don't enrich your life. And I think so it goes back to being intentional and deliberate and having those behaviors that isn't the same for you and I. It's different for everyone, but it is specific and deliberate for each person, and that you're living true to that.
And it changes per season. And one of the things that I love about the fact that you're giving us this literal guide, and that's what I want you guys to hear this. I want you to go buy the book right now, because I hear it so constantly that if I just had, or I'll wait till I have, no. Like, you got to do it now. I didn't have a dad. Like, I had a dad that spent everything he earned and blamed rich people for poor people's problems. It was a big part of my money mindset, so to speak, or how I even came to understand. And you guys have heard me talk about this story over and over again, but like, my $200,000 cap was because we were driving around neighborhoods. You've heard me tell this story. And I love driving around bougie neighborhoods. I love that. But I had a person challenge me to go create a real estate appointment, and shook the man's hand. And I heard it. My sweet daddy's gone to be with Jesus, but saying, on the backs of good people who make 200,000 or more. Well, no wonder I was sabotaging anything that happened under 199, right? Over. So I love that you're doing this, and you're a brother to me, not a father, but you're definitely a brother. But I love that I can take this book and I can learn what so many of us never heard, right? Never witnessed, never observed. And I think a lot of that, the patterns of the behavior, just to mesh our worlds for a minute, these automations are subconscious, right? And
yeah, they are.
So why you're going out to eat, why you're doing fast food, why you're buying this, that, and the other thing, most of the time, you probably, if you truthfully ask yourself, you don't know why. And that's because these money patterns are also subconsciously programmed. And so there is a little bit of first learning what you want and then what to do about what you want, which I love the idea of deciding in advance and really plugging in what matters most. And then you got to get after, why do I do what I do? Why am I? And I love that you're addressing that in the book as well. So, I'd say 90% of people fall into this category, right? Where I didn't learn it growing up. I didn't have it modeled or mirrored to me. And so in a way, like, I want my listeners to say, like, me too. Like, I get it. Like, Mel too, right? Like,
I didn't get,
yeah.
I'm a CPA. Yo, all my education, they taught me to be broke. They taught me to get a job.
Yeah.
And then work the rest of my life and everything. It didn't teach me this.
Yeah.
It was the pain of a picture. It was the pain of an existence to say, is this all I'm meant to do for the next 40, 50, 60 years? That got me to go, there's got to be a better way.
There's got to be a better way. I know with my kids too, we do this thing because I was never taught that monetary self-control, like, right. That there's this crazy thing called emotion. And it's actually in the brain, it's actually a 48-hour window that it goes away. So we have a rule in our house. I'm like, great. You want that? Fantastic. 48 hours from now, if you still want that, we can have that conversation. And I am not kidding you. 80% of the wants never actually circulate back.
It's you can call it delayed gratification. You can call it, but I totally agree with you. When our emotions enter into financial transactions, our intellect goes down.
Yes.
I got caught in a Ponzi scheme, wiped out 1/3 of everything I own. Between me and two friends, we lost over $4.5 million. Wow. How did I get caught? I'm a financial guy. I'm an advisor. I'm someone that looks at these things. I'm someone that tests it. How I got caught? Emotions. Mm-hmm. Simply. He, as a con man, he knew how to stroke the emotions of aspiration, desire, all those things, and got me hooked. And I disregarded my voice. I disregarded my rules. I disregarded my due diligence. I disregarded all of that because the emotions were so loud. Yeah. And by the time I got the logic and put my feet on the ground, it was too late.
Yeah.
And so that giving that space, the 48 hours like you're doing, is huge. Giving it a plan so you understand is huge, because now we're removing emotions. The other thing we remove when you have a plan is you remove guilt and shame. And here's why. How many times have you ever, when you're growing up or whatever, and you go out with some friends and you pick up the bill and it's $200 and you pay and you go, But what happens if in the plan you had a $200 allocation for, then that's part of the plan. There's no guilt. There's no shame. You're good. Yeah. You're just living to the plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And how powerful, talk about freedom when in control, when like you're actually doing what you said you wanted, and you're making it happen little by little, like, then you look at your business differently. You look at income earning differently. You look at all of that differently. So I love that what you've done in this book is you've given us a recipe or a path to follow, to be able to, because I mean, I don't know about you, I'm online all the time, right? And I'm like, oh, I could do sub 2, I could do that. Like, there's so much coming at us, even in the idea of that level 3 or that, being able to, or level 4, I think it is, to be able to invest. And we almost get paralysis. It's like, well, I don't know what to do because this guy's telling me that's bad and this guy's telling me that's bad. And so you got to silence the noise and start to just really get this plan figured out so that the noise just kind of disappears, right?
And look at follow the bias. If someone is an insurance salesperson, they're going to find a way to use insurance to solve your problem.
Right.
If someone is a real estate salesman, they're going to find a way to use real estate to solve your problem.
Right.
And it's only, No, not criticizing, but that's the only thing they know.
Yeah.
I got nothing to sell you.
Yeah.
I'm not selling insurance. I'm not selling investments. I'm not building a book of business where I'm the advisor managing their money. I don't want that. I'm selling you one thing. I want to sell them dreams. That's why some insurance people don't like me, because I'm going to speak the truth.
Yeah.
I have a life insurance policy that is expiring in August. And I
Yeah.
got on the phone with them and they tell me, hey, we want to transfer it to this and that. And I go, but hold on a second. They want to put me in what's called Index Universal Life. And I just said, wait a second. Okay. Why do I want that? Well, cash value. And I said, well, what's the cash value? Now he doesn't know what I do. Okay.
Right.
So he tells me about the cash value. He says, I can borrow it out and I can have that money and it's tax free and da 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 da. And I said, okay, so what you're really having me do is overpay the premiums so I can have this cash value build up.
Right.
And he said, yeah, I mean, you're paying higher premiums to do that. Okay. So then I asked the question, what happens to the cash value when I die?
Yeah.
And he says, well, you get the greater of the cash value or the death benefit. I said, so I overpay the premium. So I'm paying for the insurance to have the death benefit. I overpay the premiums to have the cash value, but you're only going to give me my estate, my survivors, one or the other. Yeah, that's the way it works. I said, yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
And I said, I won't do that. Yeah. Because it makes no sense. But no one's talking about it that way.
Yeah,
no one's dealing with it that way. So I think that there's things to do. I wanted to create the recipe. I wanted to give the frameworks. I wanted to be unbiased. And it wasn't about, I don't want them to create a dependency. I want to equip. I want to educate. I want to empower. I want them to take control back. I want their hands on the steering wheel and their advisors to the right and left of them to kind of guide them, but they get to make the decisions.
Man, it's putting the power back in our hands. Yeah. And that's why I want you to get to the bottom of my heart. If the reason you're growing a business is to create freedom, get your hands on this book and have the right plan in place. Read the book. That's what Mel was talking before we got started. And he was speaking on stage with a well-known friend of ours, and backstage, he was pensive, and he asked him what's going on? And he's like, I just see all this sadness and this fear and this desperation in these people's hearts, and I want to do something about it. And Mel, I love you to pieces. This is such a Mel thing to say, which is, and I don't want to grow a big business over it. I just really want to help people get free from that. And so that's the heart that went into this book, to set the captives free, so to speak, and give you the tools to do so. So Mel, I'm so excited. This book comes out the 11th, which is tomorrow as we're recording this. And as this podcast releases, it will be today. So the link will be live down in the chat or in the show notes. So make sure you go in, get that book, make sure it's a must purchase, because he's going to walk you through, even if you're someone like me who never heard how to do this right, who had mirrored to me make more so you can spend more. You can turn it around. You can start to really create your money machine. And this book is going to help you do it. Mel, thank you for putting your life into this book. I appreciate you, my brother.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for having me, for giving me the gift of the friendship and all the years and the support in this. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And is there, other than going to Amazon or going to bookstores, what's the best place for people to connect with everything that's going on with this book and everything that you're doing?
The best way to do it is to go to yourmoneymachinebook.com. Okay. And here's why. On there, you'll have the links to Amazon and everything. You'll buy it from Amazon. But I want you on that page, because when you do that, you can then come back and put your information in.
Yeah.
What I realized with the book is that having the book is one thing, but doing the book will change your life. And so when you put your information in, there's a couple things that I'm going to be able to send you, because if you just do it directly to Amazon or anything, I don't know who buys it. But if you do it this way, I can send you an action guide workbook that I created, an 85-page workbook that is associated with it. I'll send you a PDF of that. If you want to do it with family or friends or community, I have a book club guide that will show you how to set up a book club, the questions for each of the chapters, all of that type of stuff. I even tell people that if you have a certain number of people and you let me know, my team know, I might have a chance to be able to come in virtually and answer some questions in one of the meetings.
That'd be amazing.
Because my job, I believe, is to get people to live and do this book if I really want to change their lives. And that's it. And then there's some trainings in there to help you integrate it faster and easier. And those are all just gifts for supporting this crusade that I'm on.
I love it. And that is a crusade. So make sure you click the link that will directly go to that page that Mel is talking about. Put your information in there, buy it. And that way you are able to get these that workbook alone should be being sold. But of course, I know your heart and generosity, being able to go through a workbook that accompanies the book is such a powerful, powerful tool. So Mel, once again, you've overdone it. So make sure you grab that. Let me know, let Mel and I know on Instagram. One of the things that I'm going to be doing, because I believe so much in Mel's work and what he's doing, is we're going to be doing a giveaway. So if you've listened to this podcast, you went in and you bought the book, I want you to tag me and Mel on an Instagram post and just, talk about being excited, or you can show the book with you, or however you want to do the Instagram post. Tag us. That immediately enters you into the sweepstakes to win we're going to have some huge prizes. I haven't really worked out everything yet, but one of the things we're going to work out is a session inside our world to where you can work on your mindset at the same time as you're working on your money machine. So love you guys to pieces. Mel, thanks for coming on to the podcast. I appreciate you so much.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me. And this was a gift. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We will see you next week on the Epic Success Podcast. Bye for now.